Hey everyone, Gen X Man, back with another video, Tabletop Tuesday. For this one, I thought I would do something a little bit different, a little bit more fun. Something I have been into since I was a kid through necessity, not necessarily by choice. Solo RPGing, playing games by yourself. I grew up in rural West Virginia. There was no one nearby, and this is before the internet. There were no virtual tabletops or anything like that. So you had to figure it out. You had to do it yourself. And I am a stickler for something being consistent and believable and otherwise enjoyable, a satisfying narrative. Is when you play solo, there's the temptation to go overboard one way or the other. I tried to find a middle path. I think after about 40 years of doing this, I'm probably in a good spot. So, another video about Marvel Superheroes RPG from '86. I figured this is the end of the trilogy here. Not definitely not the end of videos about the system. And again, going back to the solo RP, I'm really tempted to do some of that solo play stuff as another video of some type. Let me know in the comments if that something sounds kind of fun. I may do it anyway, but yeah. But getting back to it, this uh, this would be the natural progression of, you've got my first overview video, how to create your characters. Now let's do some combat. Let's do some the nitty gritty, the fun stuff, you know, superheroes mixing it up. And for today, we're going to go with two fan favorites, two of my personal favorites. In a 1v1 scrap. Nothing fancy. I just want to illustrate how the combat system works, and I thought, what better way to do that than everyone's favorite maniac from Canada, the Wolverine, Logan, against one of his long-standing arch rivals, Sabretooth. Creed in some representations. It just depends. It depends. So we're going to have ourselves a little throwdown. We're going to have ourselves a little scrap between these two characters, and through that I'm going to show how this system handles combat. Some brief overviews for some who watch this. This may be old hat, but for some it might be a nice refresher, or it might be a nice introduction, or a nice explanation. Either way, try to get through it quick in case I'm covering old ground for you all. In this system, it uses the term feats, Feats, to describe anytime you're rolling the dice. We've got our dice here today. These are the original Marvel superheroes dice that I have been using forever. They are extremely old. Not as old as me, maybe, but pretty old. But anytime you roll these, and it's going to be for an ability, a power, etc., etc. It's called a feat in this system. Back then, that was not to avoid copyright claims, but more so to stand out, to have its own description, to be like, oh, yeah, in that system, it's feats. In this system, any colored result that is green, yellow, red is considered a success if there's no intensity. So if the DM just says, or the judge, I'm sorry, in this game says roll, you know, green or above, you're good. Also in this system, there's something called intensity. A good example of that would be you've got amazing rank cold generation. You're shooting ice out of your hands. There's a building on fire. Let's say it's amazing intensity heat. The judge will let you know what the intensity is. So for that, your intensity of cold is the same as the intensity of the fire, of the heat. So you're going to need a yellow result to put out that fire. If it was lesser intensity, heat, fire, etc., say it's incredible, remarkable, excellent, good, etc., you would only need a green. Unless the exception is if it's more than 3 column shifts below, like you're amazing, so you count back amazing, incredibles 1, remarkables 2, excellence 3. If it's good or less intensity, you automatically put it out no roll needed. And that's a time saving tip that a lot of role-playing games will tell you if there's no need for a roll, don't roll. You're just bogging down the game. People get bored or annoyed, even worse. So that was a quick, rundown of intensities for yellow and green. Red, that's when you're in crit range in this game. If it's a greater intensity. Now the book says one column shift higher and above, you need a red intensity. And that anything three column shifts higher is no, you can't do that. So again, your amazing intensity code, let's say the fire is, see, monsters, unearthly, shift X. It says shift X fire. If it's above that, you have no chance. And if it's in the range of those three column shifts, you're going to need a red to affect it to put it out. So there's just a quick rundown of intensities and the results and so on and so forth. Combat in this game is very simple, three steps. The first, the judge, all the players, whoever's playing, for everybody, roll initiative. Initiative is going to be 1d10, and it's going to be modified by your intuition. In today's example, we've got, Wolverine and Sabretooth. Wolverine has a monstrous intuition, so he gets a bonus to his initiative. He's usually going to go first. We're only going to roll at the beginning. You have the option to make everybody roll initiative every round if you like for people to go differently every round. But if you want to keep play concise, you want to keep it fast and moving, just have them roll at the beginning and then they keep that throughout. That's usually what I do. The second step in combat are your pre-actions. And this is determined. I like to do this after initiative, like the book says, so that people kind of know, like, oh, I got a crappy initiative. Maybe I want to take a defensive action. And defensive actions include dodging, blocking, and evading. We're not going to get into those today. We're going to keep it simple. I just want to keep this brief. I mean, the pre-actions could be their own deep dive video, and maybe I'll do that later on. But in this specific example, Wolverine and Sabretooth hate each other. They're not going to be dodging, blocking, evading. They're going to tear into each other. It's going to be bad. We'll just go. Also, one of the pre-actions is if a character wants to take multiple attacks. Now, in this game, everybody's got their one action, 5e, what D&D, everything out there is like you got your one action. You can move and you can take your one action. Your one action can be an attack, it can be something else, etc., etc. If you want multiple attacks, multiple actions in a round, that is going to be a fighting feat, a fighting roll. And that's going to be, depending, like if you want to take two actions, it's a remarkable intensity. There we're getting back to intensity. Sabretooth and Wolverine both have incredible fighting. So when they roll, the remarkable is lower than their fighting. So they only need a green or above result to make two attacks, two actions, whatever, for the round. Now in the book, when you do that, if you succeed, you can take two actions, but your fighting is penalized one column shift, showing your divided attention. I make that optional. I've gone back and forth over the years whether or not I impose that penalty or not. It doesn't really seem to make a whole heck of a lot of difference because once you get somebody with that high of fighting, the one column shift penalty only comes into play on like clutch rolls, like really close rolls. So it's just kind of like, well, do I want to speed it up and reduce my and my players' bookkeeping? And just, it's just like, well, whatever. They have two actions, just roll, just play. If you want to be a stickler for it, you can do the -1 column shift. For today's example, I am not imposing the penalty because, again, I want this to be an example and I want to keep it rolling, keep it flying. If they fail in this pre-action multiple attacks feat, normally they'd only have one action and a -3 column shift. They have stiff penalty for failure. Again, we are going to ignore that today, and as a judge, you are free to ignore that and just be like, well, you've only got your one action this turn. Again, I've been playing this game for decades. I can tell you the -3 column shift is a stiff penalty and really tends to crush people as far as, their action for the turn. I really tend to lean away from that because I don't like players being hamstrung for trying to have a little bit more fun. I mean, obviously you're going to want to impose that when you've got a problem player, somebody who likes to break the system and say, "Look how awesome!" It's like calm down and give everybody a chance. So for that guy, you can impose the penalty. Okay. Um, but after you've determined all your pre-actions, then you roll your combat. Sound pretty simple? All right. Also, a couple notes before we actually get into the dice rolling. The system in the book can be very cumbersome and nuanced for determining damage. For example, they say, Aunt May with a lead pipe is only going to do a +1 column shift from her strength damage. Whereas, Ben Grimm, it just doesn't make much sense. I've thrown that out the window. I take the damage from the weapon itself and add it to strength. That just thematically, conceptually seems to make sense for me. A knife does 10 damage, it's going to do 10 damage in anybody's hands. Now, you're going to have Daredevil with his good strength, with his 10 points of damage, 10, 10, he's going to do 20 damage with a knife, but more often he's going to use his billy club, so he's going to do 20 damage blunt. Um, Swords and such are going to do more damage, but I like to add the strength and the weapon damage together, taking into account, well, let's not get lost in the weeds about that, but basically I just take the weapon damage and add it to the person's strength when they're using a melee weapon. Obviously, range has its own, guns and such have their own damage listed, and that's whatever. But this just seems to make a lot more sense and be more thematic and satisfying when somebody's, it's like, oh, I got a sword. Instead of just doing +1 column shift from my strength, it does 10, 15 damage depending on type of sword. And also, it didn't make any sense. Like, why would you list the damage if it's only going to do a +1 column shift? So I was just like, all right, we're good at it this way, and it's worked out for decades, so it doesn't seem to be a problem so far. So there's that. Also for cutting, that's for damage. For cutting power, that's where the material strength of the actual item comes into example. For example, Wolverine's Class 1000 adamantium claws. In the comic books and in the movies and cartoons and such, he can cut through anything. Exactly. Class 1000, he can cut through anything. Therefore, he's going to deal damage to anything. He's going to cut through anything. And that's consistent. That makes sense. People expect that when they say, oh, I'm playing Wolverine, I'm going to cut through everything. Exactly. That's the entire point of it. There's none of this nonsense of, getting in the nuances of, well, this, that, and the other thing. Judges, a little hack to help you. Like if somebody's like, well, I can cut through anything. It's like, well, you still got thickness. Wolverine's claws are only, his forearm length. So if it's the thickness is more, yes, he can cut through it, but it's going to take him a while to tunnel his way through. So it's a nice little hack you can throw in somebody's way when they're just getting crazy, cutting through everything, and you need to slow them down some. Pro tip. Also, Wolverine's bones in the game itself, it gives him excellent rank resistance to all physical attacks. That doesn't make any damn sense. He's still meat and bone. And that's where the damage comes from. When somebody punches you, it's not the damage they do to your bones, it's the tissue damage, where you get bruised and so on and so forth. Same thing with a knife. It's obviously the bones come into play, but the damage is from them putting a hole in you. So Wolverine doesn't, when I play, he does not have just a flat resistance to all damage because of his adamantium skill. It doesn't make any damn sense. He's still cut, he still bleeds. It says so right in the description, so I don't know why they decide to go some easy route with it. Doesn't make any sense. Finally, one final point before we actually get into the dice rolling, the fun stuff. Regeneration, aka the healing factor. Deadpool, Wolverine, Sabretooth, everybody. In the in the rules, They say, you recover your endurance rank. Uh, I forget what it was, like for an hour, or something like that. Thematically, it doesn't make any sense. In the comic books, in the cartoons, in the movies, you see them healing. That's the entire point of it. So instead of it for being an hour, we've condensed it to 1 minute, so that every turn they gain 1/10 of their endurance in health points. In Wolverine and Sabretooth's example, they both have remarkable endurance, 30 points over 1 minute is 10 turns. So it's divided by 10, so it's 3 points every turn. So at the beginning of every turn, they automatically gets 3 health points. And that is much more streamlined, easy to keep track of, thematic. Again, when somebody's playing somebody that regenerates, they're going to expect that every turn they're going to get health back as stuff regrows and regenerates. That's the entire point of it. That's how we run regeneration in this house. And again, been doing it for decades, works out just fine for people. I mean, there may be an argument out there, it's OP. And I'm like, well, if somebody empties a clip from an Uzi in you, the regeneration is a moot point. It's like, yeah, you're going to come back, but there's so much damage. Just okay, yeah. There's solutions. So there's a brief discussion about the rules before we get into the actual rolling. Again, a refresher. You're going to see this throughout. Again, here's your dice roll. Here's the relevant ability. And where they intersect is your colored result for combat. So here we are. We'll say Earth 1986. Reference there. Wolverine is on vacation at a cabin in the Great White North. Little does he know his arch nemesis has tracked him down through whatever nefarious means. Sabretooth is on his trail and has tracked him to his cabin and has laid an ambush for our unsuspecting hero. That being said, Wolverine, with his monstrous intuition and his heightened senses, rolls a 47. And we're checking on, you know, this is an intuition roll. He's going to roll his 47 against a monstrous rank intuition to see if he smells Sabretooth. And what do we got here? We're going over to the monsters column. We've got a green, almost a yellow. What is that? That's Creed. He knows that smell. He smelled it for decades, one of his most hated enemies. He knows Sabretooth's out there waiting for him, skulking in the snow, in the underbrush. So he goes out to meet him. Unlike other media where he would go out and he would just check things out without popping his claws, it's Sabretooth. He knows that scent. He's going to pop his claws immediately, and he's going to be ready for action. Sabretooth will get the first action since he's attacking from ambush. But let's roll some initiative first. Wolverine with an 8 modified up. Doesn't really matter because Sabretooth rolled a 1. So even though Sabretooth comes bursting out of the snow and the underbrush, rah, I'm going to get you this time, runt. Wolverine knows he's coming, so there is no surprise. Wolverine is not going to play defensively, not with Sabretooth. He's going to immediately attack. Pre-actions, he's declaring that he is going to try to take multiple attacks. Rolling against his incredible fighting, he rolls a 70. At some point, I'd like to get a little camera and show you my dice rolls, but for right now, you just gotta. I'm telling the truth here. So 70 against an incredible is a yellow result. That is a success. Wolverine can take 2 attacks this round. Sabretooth rolling his fighting of incredible as well. Rolls an 08. Good lord. That is a white result. He's only got his 1 attack this round. Wolverine launches into an attack against his hated enemy. Almost dropped the die. His first attack slashing 31 on the edged column. with his incredible fighting. Again, we're not going to do the minuses for right now. We're just keeping rolling. Is a hit, an unremarkable hit. He deals excellent 20 points of damage to Creed. Creed's 120 health drops by 20 points to 100. His second attack, a 64, is a yellow result on the edged attack, which is a possible stun. 20 points of damage against Sabretooth's remarkable 30 endurance to resist this stun, to keep from being stunned. He rolls a 31, which is a white result. Only in showbiz, folks. Now, in this game system, if you receive a chunk of damage and it's nasty and it's a yellow result, it is a possible stun. That's where you're near senseless. In fact, I'll just read it to you all here. Effects. Slam, stun, and kill. All right, stun. Stun has the potential of taking a hero out of the fight for a number of rounds. The character may be stunned as a result of any slugfest attack. Slugfest is anything to do with punching, slashing, anything. Basically, it's melee, if you want to think about it that way. Now, he rolled a white result, which is 1 to 10 rounds. The character is knocked out for 1 to 10 rounds. During this time, a character may take no actions. So, Sabretooth is out for 3 rounds. Okay, well, that's it for the. So, rather unsatisfying result, but that's how you get, that's what happens sometimes with this combat system is someone can just be X out. Another advantage of rolling with a group, you got somebody to CYA. But as we see, with a solid lucky result, you can take somebody out of the fight for a number of rounds. Again, we have the importance of, body armor can come into play here. Feats and powers and such that resist stuns and so on and so forth can be very important to keep a character in the fight. And this also serves as a warning to players. Don't get cocky. You can get taken out very quickly. And then somebody just coup de grace you, and that's it for that. So it's important to have a backup. The buddy system is by far the best solution I've found over the decades playing this system is to have other players there to cover your back when something nasty like exactly like this happens. I'm actually kind of glad this happened simply because it shows that the system has teeth. The system isn't, hey, we're just going to, punching bag each other for 5 to 10 rounds and, you know, and just beat each other from 120 health to 0. There are curveballs that happen, and I have had all kinds of things over the years. I've seen deaths just come out of nowhere, and that keeps the system fresh. That keeps you on your toes. It keeps you feeling mortal. Because again, we've got thunder gods, we've got giant green monsters, we've got laser blasts and missiles and machine guns and adamantium claws and just all kinds, shapes, and forms of things that can make a character, good or bad, go splat. And that's what we saw today. We saw a very quick, very decisive victory for this universe's Wolverine. And I like the multiverse concept simply because you can have an infinite number of screw ups like this and be like, well, this was a learning tool. This was an example. And it certainly was. So I hope that despite the brevity of the combat round, I hope that gave people a nice little overview of, the 3 steps and how that might go from round to round to round and some options. You don't have to play it exactly like me. In fact, I encourage you absolutely tailor this to your own house, to your own group, because you got to read the table. If people come from all walks of life that want to RPG, I've had very few instances in my life where I've had a gaming, like I said, solo play has been my go-to simply because I haven't had that many groups that have gone for multiple sessions. I'd say 3 to 5. But the ones I've had, the vast majority of these people aren't gamers. They were interested in an IP. They knew that, I was into gaming and they would come to me saying, "Hey, is there a game for Star Wars?" I'm like, "Well, there's three actually. What are you in the mood for? Is there a game for Marvel's, the MCU?" I'm like, "Yes, there's a very good one. It's been around since the 80s, and so far I haven't found a better one or a more satisfying one, I should say. Is there a game system for this, that, and the other thing? Yes, absolutely." So the vast majority of the people, the real life people that I have played with, have come from outside the gaming community. Um, it's really only my cousin and the people through that I've actually played with other people that actually play RPGs on a regular basis. And that's a different crowd, which that's another video, but this is the point, tailor your game to your table. You got hardcore gamers, you're going to want to get more nuanced with your rulings. You got people who just came because they saw a movie and they want to play in that universe and they want to have fun. Play it fast and loose just like this and just be like stuff can happen. I mean, actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, this result was no different than Deadpool and Wolverine. This is just no different than Deadpool and Wolverine because we saw Logan take out Sabretooth like that. And that's exactly what happened here. Is there something wrong with the Welton? So that's exactly what happened here. So I hope it was entertaining for you all and informative and educational. If I put a smile on your face or if you just enjoyed the video, please give me a like. That every like I get helps immensely and it is immensely appreciated. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody who's been stopping by, watching my silly videos. I hope that I've put a smile on your face. I hope it made your day just a little bit brighter. You had some fun throughout the day. Said, "Oh yeah, that crazy redneck with his nerd stuff. He's pretty entertaining." I aim to entertain. That's yeah. And if you want to see more videos, you know, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you to everybody who subscribed. You guys are awesome. I didn't expect my first month of YouTube to be this nice. So thank you all. It's just been so much fun. Feel free to comment. I try to check them daily. I want to say multiple times a day, but I don't want to promise something I can't deliver. So I check the comments daily, and I will probably respond to everything. So thank you all who stopped by. Hope you had a great day. It's looking really nice out. Go out and get some fresh air and some sunshine. Well, this is the day before. Hopefully it's good tomorrow too. But make sure you get some fresh air and drink lots of water. I will see you in the next video. Have a good one.